Congratulations, you have made it to part 4 of the rubber band method. Like I said, it's a complex and also super simple idea, and I hope so far you've gotten a lot of good information just from that, but there's a little bit more that you can add continually to build even more tension throughout the entire song. This last part number 4, is all about the nitty-gritty parts, especially the other two aspects. So we talked about tonal shifts already with chord progressions, but now we're going to talk a little bit about tempo shifts and then volume specifically in this one, and a couple of extra tips, and then my final thoughts directly at this method and how you should think about it moving forward. Again, thank you so much for watching and being on this so far. You've been fantastic. I really hope this is helpful. This has been really important for me throughout my entire life making this music, and I just thought it was good information and something valuable for people. And if that is, feel free to like and subscribe or share it if it's applicable to someone else. But anyway, thank you for watching, and this is it, part 4. Have a good one. At this point, you basically know everything you need to know about the rubber band method, technique, whatever. To be fair, I don't know if this is the first time it's ever been called that. I've never seen anyone else talk about it this way, but this was the best analogy for myself to figure out how to best actually create tension and make awesome songs. But let's bring it all together. So now you know how to make one progression with that tension. How can you use that to create tension throughout the entire song? Well, there's a simple way to do that, and we'll go back to the 3 different ways to create tension that I talked about earlier. Now, we already talked about the third way to create that tension. That's through tonal shifts. You can do that by basically using that Roman numeral principle and the 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 and then back to 1 method. Now, the other ways you can do it are relatively simple, but if used incorrectly can really ruin, I think, the best parts of songs. So one thing you'll notice, and let's just stick with the tonal shifts and just talk about that a little bit more. Whenever you're making these chord progressions, I definitely think that the ones that you should save the best chord progression for should be the chorus, because that's the meat and potatoes, man. People will listen to verses to get to the choruses if they're interested enough. So you obviously need to make verses, intros interesting to keep people listening, but the chorus is really what it's going to hit for people. If you can get a build up and people are hyped about it and they're just pumped and they're on for the ride, but they need to be given something that's totally awesome with the choruses. Don't skimp out with your verses and intros, but make the choruses the best part of the song, hands down. So one thing that you can do is you can just mix up the chord progressions really simply. For instance, you can just do G to C over and over again for your verses. And then for the choruses, you can just do the G to A minor, C to D. Or whatever, you can mix it up in any way you want. You can even do some wild stuff for the verses where you start with an E. You can go from E minor to G to C to, back to E minor, and it'll still generally work. People can tell. The interesting thing, there's a connection between E minor and G. We won't get into that. That's more music theory, but they are sibling chords, sibling chords and sibling keys, and they work really well together. You don't need to have the home chord as your first chord. It's not a necessity, but if you're just starting out, I definitely recommend sticking with just your key chord, the chord that your song is actually in. That should most likely be your first chord, and then just kind of build up from there. That being said, make your most strong progression the chorus progression. Anyway, that's just my general ideas for that. Let's move on to the other little sections, the other little parts that create tension. So first we'll talk about tempo, right? Tempo is a real easy way to create tension in a song. I would say you should not use it too much though, because too much tempo shift can be disorienting unless you know exactly what you're doing. For instance, if you decide that you want to go from something that's 4/4 to 3/4, that's not a crazy shift, but it feels totally different. It's just one digit off, right? They still have, the same, each beat is on a quarter note, but 4 notes in a measure versus 3 notes in a measure. This is basically, this is like a waltz, and this is, a two-step. I don't know. I can't think of another thing. Most songs are built on these 2 chord progressions here, but they don't tend to mix really well. The other part of tempo isn't just the time signature. It's also the BPM, or beats per minute, right? So for instance, you could have a song in 4/4, and you could do it at, let's say 160 BPM. This is a relatively fast song, but I would say this is probably mid-tempo. This is what a lot of EDM tends to be at, and, just a lot of popular music. One thing that you could possibly do is that could be your chorus, and you could actually make your verses something slower. You could make it 150 to 135 even, and then use the choruses as this big jump in tempo to get even more tension and more changes, just that difference away from being home, which was defined in the verse. That's another thing we should talk about. Home is not the chorus. The chorus is the climax. It is the farthest way from home that you have ever been. And that's why all of your stops need to go into this. So what's the most exciting part of a movie? It's the climax. It's not the intro. I mean, sometimes the intros are dope, but I'm just saying, like, whenever you are in your comfortable zone, that's not when all of the punches are happening. Don't pull your punches for the biggest part in the song. Just an idea. Obviously, the best part about music is you can experiment. These are just general rules that I've noticed work really well for me and for the songs I've found to get, be really popular. But I mean, experiment and have fun. And then, of course, the third, and I would say probably, if I were to have to rank which one is the most important, I would definitely go for tonal shifts. So we'll make this number 1. Volume, I'd make number 2, and then tempo, I'd do number 3, because you can make a really quiet song have a lot of tension. You don't even have to change volume. Like I already showed you how you can create tension with just the chord changes. But volume is a great example of building up dynamics and tension in a simple way by just strumming harder on your guitar, just singing louder, just playing louder overall. Volume is amazing. If you can, let's use an example, Little Submarine by the Black Keys. There is nothing happening. It's just him and his guitar for like a minute and a half, and all of a sudden it kind of cuts, and then there's the guitar up here a little bit, and then bam, here's the drums, everything, and we're just up here, and it's dope as hell. That is a huge example of a tension and dynamic shift. If the entire song was this, it wouldn't be bad because, like I said, the chord progression is interesting and it has a lot of tonal shifts. If it was just this, it would probably be fine in the same way. Like, you can make a song that is only 1 volume, but if you're trying to find a simple way to create tension, use volume to your advantage. It's there, and it doesn't need to be drastic. Just a little boost in volume can make all of the difference. And I highly recommend, not only do you use just tonal shifts or just volume or just tempo, use all of them and use them when they're appropriate. And you can tell when something has been overused. We'll go back to the rubber band analogy. If it is stretched with tension for too long, eventually it will snap, or the person will get so tired of holding tension that they will leave. They will turn off your track. And I've done it before. I know people have done it to tracks that I've had the tension for too long. So here's a couple of quick tips, real quick, just to make it so that way it's really easy for you to make something and make it awesome really fast. So for instance, let's talk about, we'll use volume versus time. So this is volume, and then this is time. If you start down in verse 1 and you're real quiet, there's this little peak in between the verse and the chorus. Talk about right here. This right here is a great time to use the rubber band method in just a crazy, crazy way. So one of the things that I would suggest you use is a bunch of drops. And I don't mean a drop every single time, but for instance, let's talk about a quick tonal shift or a volume shift that you can do, and it's really easy and it works all the time. So let's say the verse is doing this, it's slowly building up, you're adding more and more, and more stuff to the actual verse. And then right before you get to the chorus, you cut it down so it's completely silent. And you do this for like 2 beats, and then bam, you hit the chorus, and it is going crazy back down to the verse. Maybe you keep it where you were before, so it's not like you're all the way back down, but you're back here. Build a little bit more tension. Instead of the drop this time, which is what people expect, you ratchet it back up for the chorus. So this is verse 2. This is the chorus. We're back at it. Do another chorus, and then we're going to drop it all the way down. We're going to bring it back up with this bridge here. And we're getting there. We're maybe even be higher than the verses intensity-wise. And at this point, you're like, okay, they're just going to go straight into the chorus. And at this moment, kill it again. Another 2 beats, max. Make it so it's like someone can breathe in. That's how it should be. It should allow someone to breathe in real quick because they're about to take on a whole bunch of water. You know, like it's about to be crazy. Give those people a second to breathe, but not too long. You're not here to try to make them think the song is over. If you hold it too long, they'll just think it's over. If you hold it for maybe a beat or 2 beats, that's perfect. Don't elongate that little bit of silence. Use silence to your advantage. It is the biggest shift in volume and dynamics. Use it to your advantage. And then ratchet it back up. This should be the most intense chorus. This right here, this is freaking Gandalf coming down the mountain, you know? I mean, he's coming back for it. He's helping everybody. This is the Twin Towers, the 2 towers or whatever, my favorite one of those. I love this analogy. You know, all hope is lost. This is how you should think about it in a movie context. All hope is completely lost whenever you come and you're here. Like at this moment specifically, this is especially this little crease here. This is the moment that you not only breathe, but it's also the moment where the people think that everything is over. Like they've reached this point and there's too many orcs, you know? Legolas and Gimli, they're looking down. Everyone they know is getting murdered. The wall has been destroyed. All hope is lost. They're about to die. And then all of a sudden, in that little moment, they breathe, see that, and then look over the hill. And what do they find? Motherfucking Gandalf. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. I really do hope this is helpful. This is exactly how I've been writing music for so long, and it's how I think about it. Even if I haven't consciously been thinking about creating tension, I wrote songs by emulating other songs that I liked. And by doing that, I inherently took this little trick that the greatest songwriters of all time have all been using. Look at any song, any great song, anything. This specific rubber band technique will be in there. I guarantee you. It's within the chords, it's with the volume, it's with the tempo, it's with everything. All of this stuff together, creating that ebb and flow of the song itself. That's how you create awesome songs. 100%. You use this technique and your songs will be better instantly. I promise you. Or your money guaranteed. So, also don't give me money. I don't want your money. I just want you to write songs. If you write any songs, I will listen to them. I promise. I don't care how well it was recorded. I just want to listen to great music because I love it. And if this is a technique that helps you, I want to know that it actually helps because this is something that I love and I use all the time, but I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. I hear people mention tension all the time when it comes to music, but I think that this is a good way to look at it and really up your songwriting game. Like I said, guys, I hope this was helpful. Remember me whenever you're giving your Grammy speeches. You know, give me a shout out. That would be dope. Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Keep writing some music. I'll catch you later.